Hello and welcome to Money Matters TV. We have a terrific show lined up for today. I'm Patricia Dunn from Merrill Lynch, and my co-host is Patty Tawadros, the president of Studio X. And our special guest today is Anthony Luker, who is an education and outreach specialist with the Office of Public Engagement, which is actually a subdivision of the Attorney General of Philadelphia. He has some very interesting things to share with us. But I know that our viewers are probably very confused, Patty, because what could an investment firm like Merrill Lynch have in common with a marketing and branding firm like Studio X?
That's a good question. I think people always assume marketing, branding firms are over here and professional companies are here. But you guys didn't get to be known as Merrill Lynch, the wealth management experts, without branding.
Exactly.
Right.
And our brand is personalized advice and wealth management. And while it's easy for the investing public to get their hands around the idea that personalized advice is the top of the food chain when it comes to investment services, let's not forget that there are 3 other levels that are branded within the industry as to where investors can turn for help. And in order to understand personalized advice, it's important to know what the other levels are. So let me take a minute and go through those. They're all revolve around advice, and all of this has happened in the last 10 years. The branding has been excellent because it's finally brought transparency to my industry and allowed the general public to match what their needs are with the type of service that's going to answer those needs. So let's go through the 4. As I said, it all revolves around advice. First of all, there is no advice. Do it yourself. Then there's the relatively new automated advice, where the investor works directly with the computer, just the investor and the computer, no human involved. Some firms refer to this as robo-advice.
Is that like E-Trade, where you use all the guides to get information?
Exactly.
Okay.
Then the 3rd level is generic advice, or what some people refer to as 1-800-TALK-TO-A-HUMAN. You've got an educated, licensed individual who can answer simple questions. But on each of these, the focus is on the portfolio, like you said, E-Trade, guides to make your own trades, type of thing. When you get to personalized advice, it's a different animal. So who needs personalized advice? Well, investors need personalized advice when they reach the point where they have a complex issue, something that isn't going to be addressed through either automated advice or generic advice.
What's an example of that?
An example of that would be, can I afford to retire when I want to the lifestyle to which I'd like to become accustomed? The investor specifically has something they're trying to achieve. They have a timeline. They're worried about what could upset the apple cart. They're worried about whether or not they can even achieve it. What's their funding to goal status?
Do you find a time in life where people want that sort of personal advice?
Oh, typically, yes. Typically people come to us about 10 to 15 years before they retire.
That's it. When should they come to you?
If they came earlier, their
The
results
day they
would be
started
better.
working?
No, they're not ready for our level of advice. They're perfectly fine with the automated or the generic advice at that stage. Typically, as you get on through your career and your assets build, and you start thinking in terms of needs, wants, and dreams, that's when it's time to seek out professional advice.
Is there a base investment amount that people need to get help from Merrill Lynch?
Well, it depends. No, answer your question, no, because the first 3 levels that we talked about, the minimums on those are extremely small.
But to get the personalized
advice, typically you're looking at over $250,000, and at my level, you're talking more like $1 million to $10 million.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it doesn't stop at personalized advice because, as you pointed out, Merrill Lynch is wealth management. So let me take a moment and explain what that is, because it's easy to understand personalized advice, but what people do, do not realize about wealth management is that actually there are 13 different issues that wealth management addresses. I'm only going to give you 6. I'm not going to give you all 13. Okay? But this is where you address issues like insurance issues. Do you have enough insurance to cover the vagaries of life that may or may not happen?
And then do you sell them the insurance they need or recommend?
We're actually an agent for over 50 different companies, yes, so we can truly shop for price. Liability issues is another big one, because if you had a lower interest rate on your mortgage, would you be able to save more for retirement? Would you be able to save more for your children's education? And what about those people who carry a credit card balance but also keep a savings account for, quote, emergencies? Is that smart money management? No, it's not. And sometimes it takes a wealth management advisor to point out why that's not so smart. Another big area are IRAs and qualified retirement plans. People sign up for these things, but they don't think in terms of how can I use these assets to protect me in the event of cognitive decline, and also to protect my heirs from the lottery syndrome. I just won the lottery because Mom died and I got the rest of her IRA to spend any way I want. Most people who earn those dollars don't want the lottery syndrome to follow them, and how can they prevent that lottery syndrome? Titling assets is another huge area where the do-it-yourselfers create absolute nightmares. You think it would be simple how you title an investment asset, but if it's not done right.
Well, slow down, because I don't know that everyone even knows what you're talking about, especially me.
All right, well,
I think are you naming your bank account the slush fund?
Yes.
That's not the titling you're talking about.
Suppose Mom's getting up in age and you're her caregiver, and you decide, and you have siblings, and you decide that maybe Mom's checking and savings account should be in joint name with you and her. Mom dies. Only half of it goes into her estate. The other half is yours. How do you think your brothers and sisters feel about that? Now, complicate it even further and have Mom put your name on the deed to her home.
What if she puts all the siblings' names?
Well, that could be done. What if one of those siblings gets sued?
Well,
They could go after Mom's house. What if one of those siblings dies? And the sibling, their portion of the house, Mom's house, goes into part of that estate. Titling is so important. It's not left to do it yourself. Charitable giving is another area. Do we give to our favorite charities while we're living? Do we do it after we're dead? Which? Why? Things to talk about.
Also, how do you ensure that your loved ones will actually do it? It's in your will, but what's to say they're not going to get the lottery?
The will?
Yeah.
And long-term care is a huge issue. At what wealth level are you okay to self-insure? At what wealth level is your only option to roll the dice and hope for the best? And when and where and how should we worry about the surviving spouse? These are all wealth management issues that are handled at that fourth level in the financial services world, personalized advice.
So one question for you, in that fourth level with the spouse, do you manage the family, or since you're advising one spouse, do you separate them?
No, typically when we bring people in, we always ask husband and wife to come in, or significant other to come in, because remember, what we do is focused on the client, not just the portfolio.
Okay.
And clients come in units, so we have to address the bigger picture. So, are you ready for a viewer question?
Sure.
Let me ask you now in return. Robert King of Philadelphia sent in this question. What are some keys to branding a company?
That's a really big, broad question with a lot of answers. I was trying to keep it very high level. The first one is your name. So when a customer is trying to pick a name, there's this battle. They want to get a domain name that matches their company name, but the domain names are really not that available anymore. So people end up making up some bizarre name. And I don't just mean they created a name. Maybe they tack some letters onto the end, they put hyphens in where they shouldn't be, and they get the domain name and the company name to match. But now people don't even understand how to find your company. It's not a name. So people need to think about what everyone does. They Google it. So when somebody's trying to find your restaurant, your office supply company, your law firm, whatever it is, try and think about how smart people are with spelling. And then try and keep that in mind so that you don't pick anything too complicated. You should try it out on your friends and family, the people that are going to give you the tough love and tell you it's stupid or it's fantastic, you should buy it. And then you get your name locked up, and then they should work with attorneys to make sure they protect the name properly so they don't lose it, so they're not competing with somebody else and then later get in trouble with the name that they've purchased. So that's just the name, and then you have the whole look and feel of your store or your website and your marketing collateral. Everything needs to go together, otherwise you look like this mismatched organization. So your messaging should be consistent from print material to website to messaging that people say at meetings, at presentations. It should all line up.
Down to your business card.
Down to your business card. It all goes together. But I feel like even more than that, one thing I was just talking about with somebody today is user personas. So people build this company and this brand and they're all excited. They're going to go out and sell pencils. Meanwhile, nobody uses pencils anymore. They haven't done their research. So I always encourage people to do a user persona study where you create personas, or basically like you're making a draft outline of each potential customer and what their needs are, what their interests are. And then think about tailoring your marketing, messaging, and your merchandise or your services to go with what people actually want. So you're in this unique position to start a new company, a new brand, and people should really try and tune in to what people want.
So we have a lot in common, because branding helps a company explain what their services are, and it also lets the public know whether or not those services are something that they need personally.
Yeah. I didn't know that all those things that Merrill Lynch did.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, this was educational for me as well.
Great. Well, now, for our viewers out there, if you'd like to send in your questions to Money Matters and have them answered, here's how you go about doing that.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back to Money Matters TV. Now for the exciting part of our show, we get to talk to Anthony Luker, who is an education and outreach specialist with the Office of Public Engagement, which is a division of the Attorney General of Philadelphia. I've got some really tough questions for you, Anthony. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First of all, let's start with, what is the role of the Office of Public Engagement?
So, Pat, our primary role is to further educate and raise awareness on quality of life issues that affect communities throughout the 67 counties that make up the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In raising awareness with these particular issues, we have outreach specialists like myself who go out into communities to interface with the public to talk about mechanisms that they can put into place to minimize their vulnerabilities during the course of their daily walk, both inside of the home as well as outside of the home.
So you're talking like scams.
So scams is one of our foremost topic areas that we go out into the public to speak on. With the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania now being home to more than 2 million seniors, it places us in the top 5 in terms of our senior population, but it also makes us a target for a lot of the elaborate schemes and scams that you see being orchestrated by criminals on a daily basis. These scams can take place over the telephone. These scams can also take place on the computer. There are a variety of different ways in which a person's identity can potentially be compromised and money actually be stolen.
What do you do on a day-to-day basis to make sure these programs get out there?
So one of the things that we do is we go out and interface with the public. We do that through a number of different channels, one of which is in the form of a presentation. So when going out to present, we go out to retirement communities. We partner with a number of different state legislators throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, as well as local civic and community organizations that will have us come out and provide our programming. And one of the many wonderful things that is incorporated into our program is it doesn't count against your budget because all of our programs are free of charge.
Well, tell me a little bit more about these programs. What types do you do?
So when we're out in the community speaking with our older adult population, our focus is scams. And when we talk about scams, we talk about the top 10 scams that we see as being most prevalent in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So it's not just about discussing the scams with the audience, but it's also helping to equip and empower them with the necessary tools that they need so that they can minimize their vulnerability on a daily basis.
Can family members get access to that sort of information so they can help their loved ones?
Family members can obtain access to that information. They can do that through our website at www.attorneygeneral.gov. We also have pamphlets and a variety of handouts that we bring out to our events on a daily basis. Our office, under the direction and leadership of Attorney General Josh Shapiro, has become very user-friendly, and we've been able to strike a unique balance where our efforts are just as much proactive as they are reactive.
Well, given that, what kind of challenges do you run into in trying to do this, and what are the varieties of demographics that you work with?
So in my role as the outreach specialist for the southeastern region, I cover 4.5 counties, which includes the city of Philadelphia. And then in addition to the city of Philadelphia, I have the Collard counties, which includes half of Bucks County. So there are a variety of demographics that we're speaking with and interacting with and engaging with on a daily basis. And we also cover a very broad range of topics. Now, in terms of the challenges that may come with that kind of work, it's being able to strike a balance and engage the variety of audiences that we speak to on a daily basis and make the information relatable so that they're best able to digest it in a way where they can understand it and apply best practices moving forward.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and how do you address quality of life issues through these programs?
So the way we address quality of life issues through these programs are, one, raising awareness. So talking about the things that folks are being subjected to on a daily basis, things that could work to potentially compromise your identity, compromise your bank account and your funds, things that you have worked so hard to obtain throughout your course of life that are very near and dear to you. So how do we do that? We do that by first identifying the scams that we see as being most prevalent. We talk about how those scams are orchestrated. We also provide people with the information where they can put the necessary protections and safeguards in place to minimize their vulnerabilities on a daily basis.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yes. So one of the many things that I always instruct people to apply as a rule of thumb is to never part ways with your finances over the phone, especially if you are not the one who has initiated the phone call. There are many scams that are being orchestrated using the telephone, especially now with the ability for the criminals to actually spoof their number. And what that does is that manipulates the caller ID, so you may think the call is coming in from an agency like the IRS or Social Security, but in fact it is a scammer who is attempting to collect monies from you immediately.
And what do you recommend people do?
So in circumstances like that, I always instruct people not to further engage individuals who they are not comfortable with speaking to. There are certain things that you can look for that should raise a red flag in any scenario. We take the word scam through the Attorney General's office, and we break it down in this manner. We consider scam to be sudden contact, money or information requested. So that sudden contact that the person is making, they're then taking it a step further by trying to forcibly take monies away from you or collect monies from you that they're asking for immediately. And I always instruct people that if a federal agency were to ever call you, they're never going to attempt to collect money using a credit card, debit card, and or gift card.
Makes sense. Now, this is big and very, very important. Is there any other areas that you address that we haven't covered yet that you'd like to bring up?
Cyber safety and security is a very big one. There are a lot of crimes that are being orchestrated over the internet in a variety of ways.
Okay.
One of which, or several of which, will actually cause your system to freeze. When the system freezes, it will many times present itself as a message that's coming from Microsoft. You will also see a toll-free number that you are instructed to call. The criminal will then, once picking up the phone, tell you that they need access to your system in order to troubleshoot whatever that problem might be. Once you give them remote access, you're then giving them access to all of the sensitive information that may be on that particular system.
Wow.
So one of the mechanisms that I advise people to put into place is whenever you see a message like that that comes up on your computer and freezes the system, just to shut the system down and reboot it, but not to call the number and not to click on anything that may be coming up on the screen.
That's excellent advice, and probably something I've never heard before. Have you?
Oh yeah, I've heard about that scam. That's pretty upsetting.
And then there's another variation of a scam which is being orchestrated over the computer where you may receive an email, and the email may claim to come from a financial institution. Well, the first red flag should be if I don't have an account with that institution, then I shouldn't be receiving an email from them. Mm-hmm. The email will talk about unclaimed monies. The email will talk about your account having been compromised. All of the information will ultimately be used to convince you of the need to click on a link that is contained within that email. And then within that link, there's a virus. So once that link is clicked on, that virus now has access to your system, which then gives the criminal access to your personal and sensitive documentation.
Well, let's add this on a positive note. How does your Office of Public Engagement actually help empower Pennsylvanians to protect themselves?
We help empower them by educating them. By providing them with further information, by providing them with access to resources. I always say as a rule of thumb, what are resources without access? So we have to continue to get the message out. We have to continue to raise awareness. We have to continue to engage people as to what is accessible to them. And all of these things are accessible to them without them having to incur any out-of-pocket cost, because our agency is funded by the Pennsylvanians' tax dollars.
That's fantastic. And I love that you're getting people, senior citizens, by going in person, and then younger people can go online and get that information. It's really important to get people where they are.
And the seniors, caretakers. That's a huge market because they're ultimately the ones that the seniors turn to.
Yes, and we always must be mindful of what kind of documentation we have in our home that may be out in plain view, especially if we have people coming in to provide home health care, caretakers, things of that nature. Again, all great people, but not people who necessarily need access to our personal information. And in this day and age of, where we've seen a significant advancement in technology, it also gives people access to be able to orchestrate crimes in a much more efficient way. So something as simple as having a document laying out in plain view that may reflect a social security number or a bank account number can then lead to someone potentially taking out their cell phone device and taking a picture of that document, where they'll never have to actually touch the document itself, but now they have your personal information, which can potentially compromise your identity.
Which is why a lot of financial institutions no longer put social security numbers on their statements. because
Yes.
of that. Well, can you tell us, do you have any workshops coming up anytime soon locally that maybe our viewers might have an interest in attending?
We do have a variety of workshops that are coming up in the not too distant future. That information is always made available on our website at www.attorneygeneral.gov. You want to go to the top of the page and click on the office. Once you click on the office, you will see Office of Public Engagement, and then you can actually connect with the education and outreach specialist who services the area in which you reside in. And then the calendar of our upcoming events is also available via that website. So there are a number of presentations that I have coming up for the month of September, which include a multitude of presentations helping to address cyber safety and security, especially in regards to our young people who are on their devices on a daily basis.
Well, Anthony, this is very important. Would you give that website address again for our viewers?
My pleasure, Pat. www.attorneygeneral.gov. Again, www.attorneygeneral.gov.
Very valuable information. We would love to have you back again as a guest. You have really helped our viewers. Now, our next show, we are going to have as a guest Eric Elmore from Drucker and Sacchetti. Now, Drucker and Sacchetti, of course, is a big, large CPA firm here in the city, but Eric's job is as marketing director. So I'm sure that'll be a very worthwhile show. Please be sure to tune in again. And as always, your money matters.